This is my submission for Monsters Among Us. If you're into cryptids and real-life ghost stories, then how have you not heard of MAU? Definitely check them out. This is not a sponsored segment or a collab. I just wanted to tell my experience and give a shout out to one of my favorite pods. Now, let's get into the story. Hey Derek, I'll remain unnamed, but I'm a 34-year-old YouTube creator originally from El Salvador. The story I'll tell you tonight will be for your Hometown Legend segment. It's also a response to a previous Hometown Legend from a few seasons back. The original submitter was a young female, I think from Mexico, who was talking about La Llorona. In her version of the story, she mentioned that this particular Llorona had a very distinct and horrific feature. The face of a horse. If I'm not mistaken, you noted that this seemed like an odd description of La Llorona and wondered if perhaps the original submitter maybe misremembered something or possibly the details were murky and muddled considering that her story was passed down from her grandfather or relative like a spooky game of telephone. However, I'd like to present a different theory. The submitter, who I'm sorry that I can't remember her name or episode, otherwise I'd look her up and credit her, wasn't talking about La Llorona at all. She was actually referring to another mythical creature of Central America, La Siguanaba. Like La Llorona, La Siguanaba is a woman scorned, forced to wander the world as a ghostly specter, luring men into the woods where she either devours their souls or drowns them in a body of water. Her voice can be heard resonating from dark and shadowy places, but often from deep within the forests of El Salvador. In some versions of this legend, she is either crying or wailing, similar to her Mexican counterpart, La Llorona. However, in other tellings, she sings or beckons in a sweet, sometimes sultry and alluring voice, very similar to the sirens of ancient Greece. Her intent is to get the attention of drunken men who are out late at night, away from their families and spouses, most likely being unfaithful to their wives. Her voice calls to them, and she will eventually appear to them as a beautiful, naked woman, covered by a thin, white, sheer nightgown. Her hair, or a veil, covers her face so that the men trailing behind her never get a clear view of her supposed beauty. Nonetheless, these men enter the woods, hoping to catch up to her as she leads them deeper into the brush. They may lose sight of her, but her voice or her cry continues to guide them throughout the night. Then, as her inebriated suitor approaches a lake, a riverbank, or even a small pool of water beneath a waterfall, she appears to him again. However, she refuses to face him directly. Her backside, nude and radiant in the glow of the moon, lures the man closer. Her voice becomes sweeter. The man, possibly in a trance, can no longer turn away. He takes one step, then another. Then he is finally within arm's reach as he lifts his hand, deciding which part of her body he'll get to enjoy first. La Siguanaba finally turns around. Suddenly and horrifically, her eternal curse and suffering is in full display. The head of a horse sits atop her neck. Black, empty holes stare at the man from where her eyes should be. Sometimes the horse head is simply just a horse head. Other times it is the bleached skull of a mare with putrid, rotting flesh still clinging to the bone. For the unlucky few who get ensnared by her call, this will be the last face they see. When I was only 9 years old, I think I heard La Siguanaba. It was my first time visiting El Salvador since having moved permanently to the United States. The night was windy and thunder could be heard in the distance as storm clouds could be seen gathering overhead. The window beside my bed was slightly cracked to let in the breeze. I was having trouble sleeping, and it didn't help that I kept hearing what sounded like a high-pitched voice coming from the trees. Part moan and part song, the voice was faint and distant, but it felt like it was slowly growing louder. When my mother walked into the room to check in on me and my older brother, who was already asleep in his bed, I asked if she heard the wind. I remarked on how the air was moving through the trees so fiercely that it whistled and sounded like a woman's cry. My mother's eyes grew large, but then her expression softened into a joking smile. She reached over to shut the window and asked me to turn to face the wall. Then, as she kissed me goodnight, she said, "Be careful, or else La Siguanaba will get you." Thanks, Eric. Hope you can use this. If I hear this played, maybe I'll make another submission about the UFO I've seen or the full-bodied apparition / Glimmerman sighting in my father-in-law's basement. And to any nerds out there who are into card games like Yu-Gi-Oh! And Magic the Gathering, or Marvel movies or VR gaming, check out Team Sigma Chaos on YouTube. It's a new channel, literally with only 2 subscribers at the time of recording, but would love to get some amongsters to show some support. Great podcast. Keep up the good work.